The call comes at 6:14 in the morning. You are 23 years old, lying on the narrow bed of a second division club dormitory in Porto, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that you have memorized over 4 seasons. Your phone buzzes on the nightstand. You ignore it. It buzzes again. You roll over. The name on the screen stops you cold. National team manager. You sit up. Your heart does something your body has never asked it to do before. You answer. The voice on the other end is flat and efficient. One of your senior strikers has torn his ACL in training. You're the call-up. You report to the national camp in 3 days. The World Cup qualifier against Morocco is in 11 days. He does not say congratulations. He says, be ready. Then he hangs up. You sit on the edge of the bed for a long time. The room smells like liniment oil and old carpet. Outside, a bus pulls away from the stop. Somewhere down the hall, a teammate is running a shower. Everything is ordinary. Everything is exactly the same as it was 60 seconds ago, and nothing will ever be the same again. You pack one bag. You do not tell your parents yet. You're not sure why. Maybe because saying it out loud will make it real, and real things can be taken away from you. The national training facility is not what you imagined. You imagined something cinematic, sweeping grass, a bronze plaque at the gate, your name announced at the door. Instead, it is a functional compound outside the Capitol with fluorescent lights in the corridors and a cafeteria that smells like boiled chicken. The other players are already there when you arrive. You know most of them only from television. The captain, 31 years old, 2 World Cups, the face of 3 national sponsorships, looks at you across the dinner table and nods once. That is all. That is the entire welcome. You understand immediately that this is not a place where you are celebrated for arriving. This is a place where you earn the right to belong, and you have not earned it yet. Training begins the next morning at 7. The session is unlike anything at your club. The speed is different. The decision-making window is different. At your club, you have a half-second to think. Here you have 1/10 of a second, and the cost of thinking wrong is not a coach's whistle. It is 12,000 spectators watching you hand the ball to an opponent. You feel on the first day. You feel it even harder on the second. The assistant coach watches you from the touchline with clipboard. He does not say much. He writes things down. You cannot see what he writes. You are not sure you want to. On the 3rd day of training, you make a run off the ball that nobody expected. The midfielder, the national team starting 10 for 7 years, plays it to you without looking. First touch. Turn. Shot. The goalkeeper dives the wrong way. It goes in. And for a moment, the entire training ground goes quiet in a way that has nothing to do with failure. The captain walks past you afterward. He says, again, that is the second thing he has ever said to you. You understand it means something. The week before the match, the weight of it settles on you in a way you did not anticipate. It is not pressure in the way your coaches use to describe it. The idea that pressure is something external, something applied to you by crowd noise or score lines. It is something internal. It is the recognition that your body, the thing you have spent 23 years training and protecting and loading into buses and ice baths and physiotherapy rooms, now carries something beyond itself. It carries a flag. It carries 12 million people who will watch you move, fail, succeed, collapse, or rise, and feel it personally. You call your mother on day 6. She cries before you can finish your first sentence. Your father gets on the phone and says nothing for a long moment. Then he says, your grandfather watched the 1974 World Cup on a black and white set in a single room with 14 other men. He talked about it until the day he died. You did not sleep well that night. The media session is 2 days before the match. 40 journalists in a room. Cameras everywhere. You have done media before. Local press, regional outlets, the occasional national piece when your club had a good run. This is different. Someone asks you what it means to be called up. You give an answer. You cannot remember afterward what you said. Someone asks how you handle the pressure. You give another answer. You are on autopilot, saying the things you're supposed to say, and somewhere underneath the words you're trying to calculate. How much can I show? And how much do I keep hidden? The sports psychologist attached to the national team sees you in the corridor afterward. She says only, you held your shoulders too high in there. By tomorrow, find where your breathing lies. You spend an hour that evening in the hotel room, learning where your breathing lives. The morning of the match is the strangest morning of your life. You wake at 6 without an alarm. The room is quiet. The other players on your floor are still asleep. You lie still, and you think about the most ordinary things you can think of. The smell of the kitchen in your parents' house. The sound the gate made when your father came home from work. The way your first coach used to draw formations in the dirt with a stick because the club had no whiteboard. You do this for 40 minutes. Then you get up. The stadium holds 63,000 people. You know this because you looked it up. You know the surface is natural grass, recently relayed. You know the wind comes from the northwest in the evening. You know the Moroccan left back has a tendency to show you inside when you approach a pace. You know all of this in your head, but knowing and doing are different countries, and right now you're trying to get your passport in order. The bus from the hotel takes 40 minutes. The city blurs past the windows. Someone put music on, but nobody is listening to it. The captain sits at the front with his headphones in, eyes closed, somewhere else entirely. You watch him. You wonder where he goes in those moments. You wonder if you will ever know that place. The tunnel under the stadium smells like concrete and old water. You walk it once during warm-up. The pitch opens in front of you like something that does not belong to the physical world. Too green, too bright, too large. The noise is already building, even though the stadium is only half full. By the time the match starts, it will be completely full, and the sound will be a physical thing, something you move through rather than something you simply hear. You do not think about that. You warm up. You stretch. You make runs. You take shots. You find the feeling in your feet that tells you are ready, and then you double-check it, and then you accept it. The national anthems are not what you expected either. You have watched them on television 100 times. You have seen players cry. You thought you understood it. You did not understand it. When the music starts, you are standing in a line of 11 men on a pitch in front of 63,000 people with your hand over your heart. And you are not thinking about football. You are thinking about your grandfather watching a black and white television in a room with 14 other men. You are thinking about your father's voice on the phone. You are thinking about every training ground you have ever stood on at dawn, in rain, in the cold middle of winter, with nothing but the knowledge that this moment was the direction you were traveling without any guarantee you would ever arrive. You do not cry, but it is close. The whistle blows, and you stop thinking entirely. The match is the clearest and the most confusing experience of your life, happening simultaneously. In the first 15 minutes, the game is faster than training. That is the only way to describe it. Not faster in terms of physical speed, faster in terms of everything else. Decision chains collapse. Space appears and vanishes in frames. The Moroccan midfielder is quicker than you expected, and twice in the first 10 minutes, he is there when you thought you were free. The crowd reacts to things you barely register. You adjust. This is the thing they do not tell you. The adjustment is unconscious. It happens below thought. Your body has spent 23 years learning to read moving systems, and now it reads this one. By the 22nd minute, you stop thinking about the speed and start playing inside it. You get your first real touch in the 31st minute. Across from the right, you lose your marker on the near post, and you redirect with your right foot. The goalkeeper pushes it over the bar. The stadium makes a sound like a single held breath released at once. The captain points at you. He says nothing. He just points. Halftime, 0-0. The dressing room is focused, not panicked. The manager goes through adjustments. He looks at you when he talks about the second striker position. He says, more aggressive on the second ball. Make them make a decision about you. You nod. You understand what he is telling you. He is telling you to be a problem they have to solve. The goal comes in the 67th minute, and you're not the one who scores it. You are the one who makes it possible. You pull the left center back 3 meters out of position with a run that goes nowhere, and in the space that creates, the winger cuts inside and drives it low into the corner. The stadium erupts. You are running and jumping with people whose names you have known from television, and they're grabbing you and shouting things you can barely hear over the noise. It is the most joyful thing you have ever been part of. It costs you nothing. You gave everything to make it happen, and it costs you nothing, and that is the paradox at the center of what you're learning to do. The final 23 minutes are defense and nerve. Morocco pushes. They equalize in the 81st minute. The stadium goes quiet in a way that is its own kind of pressure. The manager calls you to the touchline at 86 minutes. He looks at you. He says, "Can you hold the line for 4 minutes?" You look back at him. Yes. He sends you back on. You hold the line for 4 minutes, and then a further 3 in added time. The whistle goes. 1-1. A point. Not a win, not a loss. Something in between that will have to mean something when you do the arithmetic later. The dressing room afterward is quiet in a different way than the tunnel. The captain sits with a towel over his head for a long time. Nobody talks. Then slowly people start moving, showering, speaking in low voices. The manager comes in and says a few measured words. He looks at you again. He says your name, and then he says, "Next camp." That is all. But next camp means the qualification run continues. Next camp means you are part of it. Next camp is the most efficient and understated thing anyone has ever said to you. You sit with your boots still on for a while after most of the others have left. The liniment smell is strong. Your left knee aches in a way it always aches. Your lungs are just beginning to remember how to be idle. You think about calling your parents. You will, but not yet. Right now you want to hold the thing for a moment before you describe it to anyone, because description will begin the process of turning it into a story, and right now, it is not a story. It is still real. The qualification campaign runs for 8 more months. You play in 5 of the remaining 7 matches. You score twice. Once against Tunisia in a 2-0 away win that puts the group back in your hands. Once in the decisive final qualifier at home, in a stadium that has been sold out for 11 weeks. By the time the final whistle goes on that match and your country is going to the World Cup for the first time in 16 years, you have learned things about yourself that training could never have taught you. You have learned that you can function in a state of continuous pressure. You have learned that the gap between good and elite is not athletic. It is psychological. It is the ability to separate what you are feeling from what you are doing, to keep those two things running in parallel without letting one corrupt the other. You have learned that representing something larger than yourself is not a burden in the way people describe it. It is more like a frequency. Once you're tuned to it, you can hear it even when it is not playing. You are 24 years old now. You have 63 days until the World Cup begins. The captain calls you one evening in March. You have spoken more in the last 8 months than in all the years before. He says, "How are your knees?" You say, "Fine." He says, "Sleep well." The group stage is the easy part. He hangs up. You stand in the kitchen of your apartment for a moment. Outside, the city moves. Traffic. A siren somewhere. A dog barking at something in the dark. You're going to the World Cup. The easy part is coming. After that, whatever comes after the easy part. And you're already learning that the thing you used to be afraid of, the weight of it, the size of it, the visibility of failure at that scale, is not something you are afraid of anymore. Not because the stakes got smaller. Because you got bigger. The preparation resumes tomorrow at 7. There is always more to prepare. There will always be more to prepare. The tournament begins in 63 days, and somewhere in those 63 days, you will find out who you are when the world is watching. You already know the answer. You're just waiting for the question to be asked.